You are listening to 3 Point Lead presented by Loeb's Leads, and today we have a little bit of a different episode. I am going to be walking you guys through, per request by a lot of you guys, the origin of Loeb's Leads, how this all started, how it blew up, where I am now, what I'm doing, everything that led me here. I'm going to take a little bit of time today, about 15-ish minutes, to talk to you guys about the origin of it because it is a very interesting story, and I truly would not be here without the support of you all. So I feel like I almost owe you guys an explanation. Again, per request of a lot of you guys, you do want to know how I got here, what I doing, what I'm doing, and things like that. So I'll trace it back to, I believe it was June or July of 2020. It was during COVID. And to be honest with you, I was bored. And TikTok was a big thing at the time. Everybody was posting random things on it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to start talking about football. And it was something that I had loved for a long time. Football was always a passion of mine. Sports were always a passion of mine. I loved it. I woke up every day excited to do something sports related. I'm a competitive person, all of that good stuff. Like, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. So I thought, you know what? I'm opinionated. I feel like I know what I'm doing in the sports world, especially the fantasy football world. Why not just give my 2 cents and see what happens? And nothing really happened, to be honest with you, when it started. I was more doing it for fun. I was duetting videos with other creators. And I was literally just talking and yapping like that. That's still kind of what I do, just in a more structured and strategic way. But I was just talking. I was just telling everybody, what I thought, my 2 cents on fantasy players for the week. And we fast forward to, it may have been week 4 of that 2020 season. I posted a video, and I had probably a couple thousand followers on TikTok at this point because I had been posting so consistently, and some people liked what I had to say. I thought I was delivering good value as well. But I had a few thousand followers, and it wasn't anything super crazy, at least comparatively to what I have now. And I posted a video. My big sleeper for the week was, as I'm sure you guys know or remember, Chase Claypool. It was the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Travis Fulgham also had a very good game that game. I know a lot of you guys remember that name as well. But it was that game. I said, he's my big sleeper of the week. He's been getting plenty of targets. He's been making the most of the opportunities he's been getting. So he should be in for a big one, whatever that looks like. He scored 4 touchdowns, and that video blew up like I did not think it would. Gain thousands of followers overnight, not necessarily an overnight success because, again, I'm been doing this for 4 or 5 years and I'm still growing in different ways, but gained thousands of followers overnight. And it essentially made me realize like I could do this. Like I at least think I know what I'm talking about, and I fine-tuned some things as time has gone on to make sure I do know what I'm talking about. And I can deliver value in different ways. So, why not keep doing this? And again, at this time I was in college. Obviously this was happening in COVID, but I was a sophomore in college, shout out John Carroll University. And we were home for the summer, obviously, but the semester after that too. So I wasn't in person the first semester of my sophomore year. So the third semester overall in college, I was still home. I went and visited some friends, but I was still home. I was still doing online classes, and I was still making sure I got my stuff straight in that world, in the school world, and doing this, for fun on the side. And while this was all happening as well, I was a student assistant on the John Carroll football team, helping in a variety of different places. But I spent a lot of my time there as well. Strategic, schematic stuff, logistics stuff, like everything that was needed to be done as a student assistant working for free. Like I was helping do it. So football was kind of a big part of my life. But again, I was still checking boxes in school, still going to class, still making sure I got good grades. And when that second semester of my sophomore year came back around, I really started taking the strategy behind posting seriously. After that Chase Claypool video, I probably hovered around 5,000, 6,000 followers on TikTok at least. And then throughout that season, I probably gained, I don't know. I probably did hit 10,000 followers during that season. So it was a pretty consistent battle of making sure I posted consistently and delivering value, occasionally being right on some bold predictions, things like that. But that off season, when the season ended, I posted a couple videos talking about what teams needed to do to get better. The big one that blew up was the New York Jets. And I talked about a couple different things. I talked about them hiring Brandon Staley. I talked about them getting a new quarterback. I did say Zach Wilson. Obviously that, didn't work out, but that video blew up. People love what I had to say. People absolutely adored the strategy behind, rebuilding the Jets. And I did the same thing with the Patriots. Both those videos did unbelievably well. And in the span of a week, my audience over tripled. Like I think I had almost 40,000 followers on TikTok going from 10 to 40 in maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And again, this was something to me that I still view as like I don't view followers as a number. I more view it as a community of people, and the number behind it is just a metric to measure your growth in some way. Now, it's not the entire way. There's a lot of different things that you can measure and talk about when you grow personally within your career, especially in content creation and sports. But it's a very easy thing to measure, so you do measure it and you talk about it. It's easy for goal setting as well. But besides that point, the off season, grow a ton, right? And that spring comes around. It's my first semester back at college. I'm living the college lifestyle, having fun with my friends, still posting very consistently to this day. I can count on one hand how many days I've gone without posting a video on Loeb's Leads, but still posting pretty much every day, still making sure I'm delivering, value. I hit 50,000 followers right around the Super Bowl. And it was a huge milestone for me. Again, it was something where I realized like, oh, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can continue to monetize this, make this a career in some way. I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time. Again, I was a student assistant on the John Carroll football team. So I thought I wanted to work in the NFL world, like in that type of football world at the time. Didn't know what I was doing fully. Didn't want to know what I was doing fully, to be honest with you. I was kind of along for the ride, as I'm sure a lot of 19 and 20-year-olds, some of you guys may be listening now are. And I think that's, the proper spot to be in life, at least comparatively. But that offseason after the Super Bowl, so the offseason after the year that the Bucs beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So 2020 offseason, I was at about 51,000 followers. I remember this vividly because it was a big moment in my mental fortitude in pursuing something I want to do for a career, because I was at maybe 52,000, around there. And throughout that offseason, I lost a lot of followers, actually. So as I'm sure a lot of content creators know, and some people could probably figure out if you're watching a football creator, throughout the offseason, football content doesn't do as well, right? And now, today's June 29th? Football content is all-time low, all-time dry. And, you're sitting here trying to figure out what to do. Are you doing something wrong with your content? But at the end of the day, I'll talk about this a little bit later, I learned it was just a consistent thing where, some things sometimes are more popular than others in the football world. But throughout that 2020 offseason, really 2021 offseason, I lost followers and I had a lot of self-doubt. I didn't know if I could do this. I didn't necessarily almost quit, but I was like, maybe this isn't all sweet. Like maybe this isn't what I thought it would be. Maybe the potential for this is not there. But like I said, I just kept posting. I just kept talking. I kept giving my 2 cents about the draft, free agency, offseason. I remember very vividly, this was the free agency period, the trade period where the Rams got Matt Stafford, the Giants got Kenny Golladay. Like it was a very busy offseason. So there was a lot to talk about. And then, as the summer went on, my account kind of hovered around that 50-ish thousand. I was occasionally posting on Instagram, but nothing crazy. But I also remember this very vividly. I was in Target checking out, just getting groceries, just had moved into my college house in June. And I get a DM from a company, Hype Flags, as I'm sure if you guys are OGs, you remember. This was my first brand deal, my first time anybody had reached out to me saying, hey, we want you to promote our product. Long story short, it was structured in the sense that depending on how your video did, that's how you got paid. So it was incentive based. But they're like, hey, we want you to promote our product, select these flags, put them in the back of the video, and make whatever video you want. Just make sure the flags are visible. And I was like, okay, awesome. And if you guys remember the content that I've made, I'd be sitting in my chair, in my desk, in my room, in my college house, throwing a football up in the air, pointing at the flag, pointing at the text on the screen, saying like the forgotten wide receiver nobody talks about. Then it would cut to a clip of somebody like Jordy Nelson or Kevin White, like guys like that, like random people that, struck a chord in a certain audience. And those videos did really, really well. And I gained a bunch of followers throughout that off season. I was able to honestly really commit myself going into my junior year to that. But as time went on in the John Carroll football world, I was given more responsibilities. I was doing very well in that world. I was given more responsibilities, a task to do more, helped out in different ways. So I was, again, posting very consistently every single day throughout that fall 2021, but wasn't really seeing a ton of growth. Like I was confident in what I was doing, and I understood what I was doing, and I was doing things the right way, going about it in a certain way. But like I wasn't feeling the love that I once had for it. I wasn't truly enjoying what I was doing, and it was more checking a box to make sure I did certain things right. And I gained a bunch of followers throughout that season. I hadn't hit 100,000 yet. That was my big goal, but I gained a bunch of followers throughout that season. Learned a ton of things about myself, but also the game of football that helped me. Probably my most influential structural year in terms of learning things about the game of football that really created a firm foundation for everything that I had to say, everything that I talked about. But throughout that season and the off season following, it was kind of dull. Like, you guys know, junior year of college, especially junior year going into senior year of college, if you're not there yet, probably the best time you're going to have in college. Obviously, senior week, the very end of college when you're not doing anything is cool, but junior year going into your senior year, that spring into summer, the best time you're going to have in college for sure. And I was really enjoying it. But like I said, I was still posting consistently. The community we had, like, they weren't starved in any way. Like, Loeb's Leads content was still coming out very, very consistently every single day, multiple times a day. And again, I'd probably built up a solid audience of just under 100,000 followers. And then as the fall 2022 came around, I was in a very similar boat as I was before. I was, posting things. I was doing everything I needed to. Had a couple of brand deals throughout the spring that year before. I worked with Overtime. You guys see the hoop in the back if you're watching on YouTube. Incredible people there, by the way. Awesome people at Overtime. But I was, just checking the boxes, making a little cash on the side as a college student, which was great. Like, it wasn't anything super crazy. It wasn't like I was just racking in tons of money, but like I was making a little money. I was having fun doing it. I was enjoying life. Like, that was the bottom line. But as senior year came around and, graduation and post-grad plans were looming, I really committed myself to the John Carroll football team in the fall. I coached a position group. I was 22 years old. Like, it was a very difficult thing to do, but I learned so much then. And throughout that process, was still posting consistently. That fall, probably October-ish, I reached 100,000 followers, which was a goal that I set out for myself. It was a huge milestone for me because, again, I was like, maybe I can do this full time. Maybe I can really, really love what I'm doing for a living, which is the goal. That's the ultimate goal, as I'm sure a lot of us have. But throughout that fall, again, was posting really consistently. And then the season ended, was at a pretty solid spot, like a little over 100,000 followers, was really applying myself to everything I was doing, but also trying to enjoy the very end of college because, I still haven't seen a lot of the friends I graduated with. Like, it's the reality of college. After college, you don't see people. You move on to different walks of life. Like, it happens, and you guys will soon realize that if you haven't. But the spring of 2023, so when I was graduating, I had a spot to work in the USFL, as I'm sure a lot of you guys know. I was with the Pittsburgh Maulers, and long story short, my house near college was an hour drive away from where we worked. And I would do the hour drive every single morning, at least during the week. Every single morning would probably work from, I don't know, 7:30 to